Remember this, what Malehya said?
I'm just staying as hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them. And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep. And they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet.
So already we got a problem. Already, if this is your story, it's not a very good one. They're outside playing, you just weren't aware of it? That's the answer. We just weren't aware of it at the time. But go back a little bit earlier. It's circular. You're not saying anything to us, honey baby.
Them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they.
Priority is self. Oh, this is a one-off. Usually we're not the types of people that let our kids walk very far or clean up our property.
Drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their.
You're drifting in and out of sleep. Why is that important to this story? Why is drifting in and out of sleep significant to all of this? Because it's somehow a justification in your minds as to why the kids are gone? Come on. Such a sad thing to hear come from Malehya's mouth. Now, you can tell at home that this is probably rehearsed, forced down her throat. But it would indicate that she would know what happened to Jack and Lilly at that point in time. There's nothing direct in your language.
And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door and we can't hear it when it opens.
Well, that was fairly clear. You have to put that door in there. We can't hear it. They voluntarily chose to leave the house, putting all the blame on the children that are now missing and can't speak for themselves. That's what this gal is taking up most of her time speaking about, putting the blame back onto the kids and how they're not that type of parent. So she's really pissing in your ear and telling you it's raining. Why is any of it significant? They'll never get to that. You can never quite tell. And it goes for the whole crew. It goes for all three of them that were last there and last around Jack and Lilly. What happened the night before? What happened during the phone call with Cindy the day before? Did she actually see the kids on that phone call? What happened that evening? Why can't Danny boy remember any of it? And why doesn't he think any of it's significant? Rather than try to remember. That's how desperate he is to avoid speaking directly to what would otherwise be very easy to speak to. Should you be innocent in anything? Should you not be connected to the disappearance?
Hopeful as possible. I want them home. I want to hold them.
Hopeful as possible is something that you do when you're acting hopeful. I'm going to act hopeful as possible so that way people can sympathize with me a lot easier on the other end of the camera as they're eating dinner and I have to tell the world exactly why my kids aren't around anymore. I'm just going to have to put the blame back on them because of this sliding door in the back that they got out of and never to be found again. No sign of them. Just one boot print on top of where Janie was raking for something that doesn't even exist. Where and what did you do with Jack and Lily, guys? It's time to speak. It's time to throw that other person under the bus. Nobody here is getting out of this without some sort of culpability, some sort of charge in that sense. Especially that the conspiracy after the fact to cover all of this up is so extensive. You think that not really speaking to what eventually is going to have to be spoken to is buying you some sort of time or never going to happen, you're wrong. Cops haven't even asked them anything tough at this point. Evidence gathering.
And I want them home. What happened was we woke up, I heard them playing in the next room beside us, and I was drifting in and out of sleep, and they're not the type of kids that we tell them not to go outside on their own. We always make sure that we're out there with them, watching them, and they happen to just get out that sliding door, and we can't hear it when it opens. And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up and I tell him
She doesn't believe what it is that she's telling people here, does she?
partner, Daniel. I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says no, and we get up instantly. We're looking outside, we're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call. They're both really go-lucky children.
So there we go again, another spot where she avoids speaking directly to the trigger event to all of this. As in, there was no trigger event, as though it's some sort of excuse or it's okay in this circumstance. You don't even want to speak to the trigger event in all of this. It's because this and what she's portraying didn't happen the way that she's portraying it. She didn't seem very confident in the words that she was speaking right there. Yeah, somebody who called in that their kids have walked out and are lost in the back bush. Call your kids in missing. And you want to remain as distant through your language as possible because it's easier to forget and play stupid than it is to get caught up in what would otherwise be a necessity or a necessary lie. Ginger snap. So what was it, Janie that told M that she heard the children outside? Janie doesn't seem to mention that conversation between her and M. Well, they speak to that differently. Yeah, so at what point in time did they figure that they were outside playing? They were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. Well, when did you become aware of it? Paula W. in my chat, WQ1KH wants to know, please. And so did the RCMP. Oh, and then you can forward it to Kent, according to Durwood.
Talk to anyone, they'll talk your ear off. They will speak to anyone in a store. Everyone. They're just extremely sweet kids. I appreciate the huge search effort going on right now, but we've been pushing for an Amber Alert, which hasn't been issued not just that they could possibly be abducted, which it is a possibility that they could have been, but just an alert to let everyone know that they are missing. We had people text me saying that they weren't aware, someone else let them know that they were
explain
missing.
to them,
And it would
explain to
just be
people
nice
why.
if everyone could be alerted. We thought maybe that we found
Avoidance.
tracks, but it's still uncertain. It's been raining and they're probably soaking wet, but with the sun today, I'm hopeful that they are feeling warm.
Go in there and won't find anything?
I know for 100% they won't find anything. I mean, that's probably why they waited this long to do it. It's just to keep the public informed, I guess, that they're hard at work.
Do you think it will rule things out?
Yeah, I think we'll rule a lot of things out. We'll rule out that the RCMP are, working hard, and there's no human remains on the property.
Is there any piece of you that's preparing for the fact, like, what if they do find something?
No, because I didn't do anything. I know Maleyha didn't do anything. I know my mother didn't do anything.
So, do you see how indirect that whole conversation is? None of them really wanted to specify what it actually is that they're referring to, and this nothing or this that they only loosely refer to. But here you see a perfect back and forth, almost like it's Laurel and Hardy. So how is it you go from encouraging and wanting cadaver dogs to come in all of this time and dismissing such a general, easy question like wondering or hoping what you think? If you say this, then are you hoping that they find something or this or what exactly? But they are still only referring to it as it. So indirect, ambiguous, vague. This anything that you guys didn't do. What is it you're referring to? What are the things that you didn't do exactly? So we know. JM, that snide laugh when he's talking about remains. Well, that's duping delight. That's duper's delight. Well, I've said it before. Ha 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 ha. Ha, jeez. Just so ridiculous. It makes me laugh. That's what he's doing, but there's a little bit more cognitive effect at work here than that. What's up, Katie? What's up, girl? They didn't do anything. They didn't do nothing to those kids. Didn't do nothing. It didn't do anything to protect them, Squid. That's a good one. Yeah, it's a commonality. You can finish their statements, right? They always love to give you these half statements, these half, we'll call them half truths, not the complete story in that sense. I'll give you a little bit of that, but not all of the statement. Well, Sarah Jane, there'll be special circumstances when the situation comes up. I'm not too worried about sentencing as of yet. Let's figure out what it is that they've done. They probably is not going to last that long. But you never know.
Those are 3 people on the property. I mean, after the polygraph exams, they should have known right there. We didn't kill any of the kids, or we didn't kill the kids.
Why do you think
We didn't kill any, and then change it to we didn't kill the. Interesting. I like that question. I like that answer. Not for the reasons Daniel wants, though. So he's introducing kill to everybody, really. Nobody's bringing that to him. It's him introducing it. We didn't kill them. So what does that have to do with dogs finding any sign of decomp? Kelly OG says that was leakage, right? So are all of his stutters. Oh, Robin Edwards, you just got over being ill. Now I feel ill again when I hear douchebag talk. Oh, well, my God. Do you want some Pepto-Bismol, girl? Yeah, Rotary, all of their sentences are weird. Yeah. Right. They're playing games in that sense. It's very indirect. It's not a direct, open conversation like you would otherwise think it would be, right? Hey, Sweet Tea, good to see you. Danny Boy could be shitting swirlies in prison, 2 flavors. He's probably going to change genders in prison, I would expect. An involuntary gender change. Coop, why did he say we didn't kill any of the kids? Is there more to the story? No, he was just, what do you mean more to this story? No. Is that the it he's referring to? I think that's the it that everybody's referring to, isn't it? It doesn't get any worse than that. I mean, that would be the apex to all of this. So if you know all of that, then you could therefore confidently say to the world that, or what it is that you do think. But why so hesitant to even be direct like that? You would want to be direct. What's going on, J-Rock? J to the ROC. He'll look just like his mama, but she looks like a man. The dude looks like a lady here. He looks like Vince Neil. Sarah Jane, and the ground is so uneven and rough and so deadfall. There's no way they could have gotten far in the woods. Exactly. Nobody came by and picked them up because you would have heard all kinds of activity out there. It would be impossible to try to convince people. You would have to take the 12 jurors over to this place on Garlock Road and have them all stand in the trailer and go outside and make some noise and recognize just how thin, paper thin the walls are and how impossible it would have been not to hear kids playing out there or people coming and going out there or some sort of noise. They just can't figure it out. And when they're, we'll say, pressed or questioned on it, they rephrase their answers into the form of a question as a way to deflect. Brandy Lindy, the search director, says Jack would have only made it 4 or 5 feet in those woods unless they took a trail. Not saying that that's what's happened, just looking at the possibility. Well, Brandy, you can pretty much rule all of that out. But notice that he didn't want to even introduce that because it would be, what, talking about the kids wandering off into the bush again? He doesn't even want to entertain that at this point, anticipating the audience already knows that didn't happen. Right runs with scissors. There's searching done all over the place, Debbie Roberts. It was thoroughly searched, professionally done. Basic old broad. Thank you very much, darling. I appreciate that super sticker. JM saying, I take what Daniel said as though it's like saying, yes, bad stuff might have happened, but we weren't responsible for this particular extreme. He's splitting hairs at a time where there's no reason to. Nobody knows what you're alluding to or why you're speaking the way that you are in an indirect fashion. should be just as mystified. You should be the one telling people what's mysterious about it. You should know better than anybody, but none of that conversation's ever happened. You would be so direct because you would be trying to do the right thing, Daniel. The right thing isn't what it is that you're doing. You're obfuscating, and that's obvious. Yeah, Coop. Yeah, she has lost the plot. I know. I don't tune in. I don't know about that, Barky Boys. Yep, Tina Lee, it could be anything. The fact that we're pretty sure that they were coming and going all that night from that particular spot, it would make sense to try to rake over all of the evidence of the vehicle that you were using to dispose of. Evidence or packages, bodies in this circumstance. The sad reality of it. I don't even like to speak on it. I didn't even like to speak on... It should be obvious. I don't think anything about DT's opinion on anything. He's a fraud. An individual is misrepresenting himself and misrepresenting on the back of these two children with disinformation. I don't care what he has to say. He's a fucknut. Drunk guy said us Canadians must be dumb if we think 4-year-olds can't walk. Are you saying that's what that dipshit said? He's a fucking loser, dude. Paul Blart. Fucking mall cop. I don't even like to be negative because it turns people off that might not have otherwise be turned off before, but I don't mind telling you the odd time. There you go, I just told you. He's a spaz, dude. You've got to really watch it. Watch who you hang around these streets sometimes. Get ready, Daniel and Malehya. The RCMP are coming for you, says Runs with Scissors. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Roddy, those kids never went in the woods, nor would they have ever been able to. Yeah. Listen, the kids just didn't voluntarily put on their boots, no clothes to go into the middle of nowhere. Kids get up and go into the cupboards. They go into, the refrigerator. They go where their toys are. Because that's what's imprinted on their mind a good time. They don't know about all. They don't immediately go to the spookiest, scariest fucking place, never to be seen again. Unless somebody helps them along the way, if you know what I mean. Daniel, Janie, and Malehya. Logan, Durwood, and Kent. The fact that it's even a topic, the topics that have been brought up by the individuals that last saw Jack and Lilly are alive are so fucking embarrassing and ridiculous that it, in of itself, it shows you how desperate they are to get away with whatever it is that they themselves have done to these kids. The funny part of it is that they are so desperate for your sympathy, they go to such great lengths where an individual wouldn't have to sympathize with the victim in this circumstance should it have been legitimate. But we're still waiting to figure out what happened, no different than that very first interview that Malehya gave. It's too bad you assholes couldn't figure out how to be a little bit more direct in how you wanted to exit this. You can't maintain in a place where you've brought and left it. You don't want to answer. None of you want to answer a question directly. And hell, is it funny to troll.
That they're not possibly, like, why that they didn't possibly wander into the woods?
Well, with the amount of resources that were used, and I mean, for everything from drones to helicopters to classified technology and all the searchers on the ground.
See, he wants to get ahead and stay in front and tell you the exact.
I didn't hear anything. The next thing I heard is I heard Daniel yelling. He was yelling for Jack and Lily. I didn't get up.
I think it's funny how more than one person, all three of them go with the fading in and out of sleep to try to somehow signify a gap in time, as though it's an excuse and a justification to not speak to it during a specific time frame. That's not going to fucking go over. This fading in and out of sleep nonsense is not going to fly. You were up, obviously, and awake, wishing you were asleep, hoping that the excuse that you're giving people in that moment is fooling them or conditioning them enough to just accept whatever bullshit you're saying to them.
Because I thought he was yelling for Jack and Lily to get in the house. So the next thing you know, I came out of the trailer after I heard Daniel, about, I'd say, 10 minutes after I heard him, I come out of the trailer. I opened up the door, was standing here. Maleyha was standing right here with Meadow on her hip. And I come out and I said, "What's up?" She said, "Jack and Lily are missing." I said, "How long?" She said, "About 20 minutes." I closed the door, got my boots on, came out here, ran up.
And why would it matter? Why would it matter to Janie, Daniel, or anybody else associated with what happened to Jack and Lily care about what a bunch of strangers were speaking about them on the internet? Why would they even need to take up their time as though that was a constructive way of going about things? That the things that people were saying about them were affecting them to a degree that they have to mention it. It just is leakage for what's really terrifying them. They're terrified about being called out. They're terrified over being strung up to the lampposts because of what it is that they did to two innocent children aged 4 and 6. They violently took their lives. Not because they were caring parents, but because they had become a burden. And you wanted to act out on the person that was putting you through unnecessary torture to your narcissistic ass. It was a form of extreme narcissistic abuse from way of Daniel and Janie. Add the fact that they're all racist atop of all of that. Well, it's specifically racist towards Maleyha's ethnic heritage in that sense. You know, Brandy, everyone instinctually knew that the kids went into the woods, but now they didn't go into the woods. Well, yeah, because they didn't find the kids, obviously, and there's no way that they continue trying to convince people that they did. They were better off just to stick with what it is they said and nothing else. But they want to come out and say that we don't believe the kids are in the woods either, everybody, so there's no sense bringing that to us. It was a way to deflect away from any sort of accountability in the moment. Oh, we've brought your asses through this fucking lie. We're going to take you through our next lie. And here's our little buddy Durwood. You were shocked about that? Why in the heck would Malehya think it was safe for her and her children to be there? Well, she was complaining about it for a while. For whatever reason in her mind, you would think that she was taking the steps. She was taking her steps in her own mind, but nobody ever thinks the worst thing is going to happen to them. Except when you add into the equation the unpredictability of the mathematics and the substance abuse and the abuser. Think about the type of fucking asshole he is based off of the deception and the lies that you're experiencing, Daniel. Think about the type of individual he really is. The type of individual that does what it is that we're accusing him and suspicious of, and what it's looking like he's done to these poor kids. And what would you expect from an individual like that? Shenanigans, saying handcuffs, that's what they're scared of? Yep. That's their primary fear. And they'll say and do anything in that moment to the cops to make it look like it was somebody else. At some point, you run out of excuses. You've exhausted all other resources. No more call a friend. Now, based off of that little trip that you've brought investigators through, there's all kinds of questions that'll arise from that. I wonder what they'll say. Oh, it wasn't me. Wasn't me. I know we didn't do anything to the kids. Oh, yeah. How do you know that? And why do you put all of that on Malehya? So it's an inconsistent statement that he's bringing to people once again. Always inconsistent. And they've, at this point in time, said everything that you could possibly say on both sides of the fence. I don't know if you can get any more contradictory. There's nothing more to contradict about. We see just how guilty these people are. And Janie has her excuses, and she's told us about that excuse, hasn't she? She'll do anything to protect her kids. She'll do anything to protect her Daniel in his times of need.
In the woods, just right up here. The kids have a little fort that they made out of sticks and fir branches, and that's where they go. You can see them and hear them. We went for walks in the woods. I had to practically carry Jack through the woods because there was no way that he was walking through all that tree falls and bushes. I did this whole area. There's an old road up back. When I got up to the top of the hill, I met Daniel. And I said to him, I said, did you find them? He said, no. He said, you coming with me? I said, no. I said, I'm going to search this area. Because when she told me the kids were missing, you automatically think they went into the woods. That was my first instinct. So I went up and I did this whole...
Yeah, instinct. Instinct is right. Stink. I see a lot of stink. I could smell her through this damn TV. It's amazing how specific she gets with her memory in this circumstance over otherwise mundane parts. Oh, you saw Daniel coming across the front and you asked him about something that was negative, but you can remember this so specifically. Yet You can't remember all of this other, time frame, this point in time, like the circumstances and the time frame around leading up to when you say Jack and Lily disappeared. See, we're only seeing this through this particular story. You know what would be so fun? To have an in-depth conversation about Thursday. Right from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and see all of the reactions. Why don't you guys go back and tell us what you did on Thursday? Better yet, tell the RCMP and come out and tell us what it is. What's your story? Something that you're not going to see Daniel do. There's nothing worth remembering. Remember. Imagine hearing that fucking excuse as an investigator. That's almost like finding the last apple fritter in the donut box for them. That's like a bonus. That's a little Easter egg. It's like 100 XP to your energy level because you know you're on the right track because only a suspect or a guilty individual in this circumstance would be saying something like that. Oh, CJ, St. Jacobs apple fritters. You talking about St. Jacobs, Ontario? The farmer's market? The Amish farmer's market up in there? I love that farmer's market, brother. That was when my guilt sank when DM said he knew three of them did not kill the kids, replaced it 2 times, which got me wondering who else was on the property or that he knows who did what. There's going to be such a thing as, I'm not saying that you're doing that, Explore Core. You can follow whatever way that you want, but I only look at a liar so far. I only need to know that he's fucking lying to me before I disregard anything else past a certain point. He's just a bullshitter, and I know what he's bullshitting about. Play down the day the shit went down, Neuro VX. That's what they're doing on the Thursday night into Friday. So happy about Wade Paris's statement. So happy to hear Bradley Wong and Justin Smith speak right out. Think about how they misrepresented it while they acknowledged what we now know to be out there in the early part of the investigation about him driving around all night. It wasn't them introducing it, meaning Daniel or Janie or anybody. They had to dismiss it, and that's so suspect. You would think that if they were victimized that there was vehicle activity here the night before. That's news to me. I wonder what that has to do with anything. No, they had to completely dismiss it and try to throw shade and undermine the credibility of 2 separate eyewitnesses that contradict their story to police in real time. That's them panicking. They didn't think that one through very far. It got so close to home, it scared them, and they just straight denied it. And Malehya also claims that she never had heard a vehicle Thursday night, Callie? Is that right? Oh, yeah, we can't trust Malehya in this circumstance. Sadly. It still kind of baffles me a little bit that, according to Haley, by the sound of that particular clip in the interview, that her being Haley Ferdinand, Malehya and her other friend / in-law, we'll say sister-in-law, I forgot her name off the top of my head, are all going out posting missing posters of Lily and Jack. That tells me that Malehya is lying directly to them voluntarily. Shelby. Thank you, Brandy. That's very bizarre. I think that would be very traumatizing to be, Cheryl, not Shelby, Cheryl. You're right, Cindy. You think that would be traumatizing. And why would you be putting people through that just to make it look like you're doing something to make it look as though your false story is real? It's just shocking to think about, especially recently. Why does Brad Wong go by boss man? Does he have his own business? Because he's a boss man. He's a good man. Sarah, yes. Oh, let me see.